Grand Church, and to all my brothers and sisters here in Virginia. I used to pastor in Martinsville, Virginia, the same year that Nelson Mandela was set free, and Governor Wilder won the governorship, even while Virginia still had the N-word in its anthem. We are not here tonight. I want to do a little house cleaning because of Trump. And that's important. We're not building a movement to resist Trump, because Trump is a symptom of a greater problem. We also are not here because the issues of poverty started with this current administration. For more than 50 years, there's been an effort to remove even saying the word poverty in our political life, and from even dealing with the issue of racism until somebody like Roseanne Barr says something foolish, or we have an incident in Charlottesville, which is terrible and ugly, and almost every politician will denounce that. But then some of those same politicians that denounce what happened in Charlottesville will go right back to the State House and the Capitol and vote on policies that are born of white nationalism, white supremacy. Liz and I often say we had 26 presidential debates in 2016 and not 1 hour on power, Democrat or Republican. Not 1 hour on systemic racism, Democrat or Republican. So we're here to say that we need a moral uprising to shift the moral narrative. And it has begun during these 40 days, the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And now we're deepening this across this country, particularly with these hearings. So all of these hearings, we invited all the politicians. You see the seats there. Now, don't be next, some couldn't be here for whatever. We wanted at least you to know their names. Because we have to have a movement that is from the bottom up and that says to all politicians, regardless of party, we have not done what we could have and should have as it relates to the issues of systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, and the war economy, and challenging the false moral narrative of religious nationalism. We must do more, and we cannot simply have a left versus right conversation, a liberal versus conservative conversation. We need to have a right versus wrong conversation. But a transformation. So tonight, thousands that are online, because we're showing Virginia all across the nation, and all the organizers, raise your hand, everybody's been organized, where y'all at? We thank all of them for the work. We are building a fusion coalition, and fusion is when you have poor people and advocates and religious leaders, people of faith, people not of faith, and even people with wealth, who have wealth with a conscience, who come together and recognize that in every era of this country's history or world's history, you have to have a moral, can y'all hear me? Or is it ringing? Okay. You have to have that don't do things because the poll says it's time, but because the moral arc of the universe says it's time. Right? And sometimes they may not be stood for years down the road. So as Liz has said, Dr. Liz, we are building out deep. There's some things we're going to talk to you about at the end of this hearing that we're pulling points, things that we need to do in order to have a massive narrative shift. You cannot have a society where 140 million people are poor and low wealth, and they're not even mentioned in the political discourse. And if they are, it's mostly band-aids of band-aid attention rather than transformational change. Right? Now, real quick, 400 years ago, the first slaves were brought here to Virginia, to the Americas, and ever since then, there's been a goal to pit black folk and poor white folk against each other, who ought to really be allies. And then to pit black people and poor white people and Latinos and Asian and natives against each other. This movement is declaring that pitting works no more, and we will. And this movement will show this nation that we can have a fusion coalition, a mighty movement that can have grown-up conversations about poverty, racism, ecological devastation, the war economy, the false bar narrative, and we have sense enough to know that the same people that engage in systemic racism also help to push policies of systemic poverty and push policies of ecological devastation and the war economy, and if they are cynical enough to be together, we are smart enough to come together. Pastor, because our deepest religious traditions say that true morality is where you stand in relationship, as Howard Thurman said, to the dispossessed. Isaiah 58, one of those great texts used in Yom Kippur, that Muslims honor, Christians honor, Jews honor, universalists honor, says that we are called to cry loud and spare not and challenge systemic injustice. Just yesterday I was told by someone, oh, you all in the poor people's movement need to stop talking so much about the issues because eventually it will become just noise. My response to them was, in the Hebrew tradition, in the Hebrew language, the word for voice is koil, K-O-L. The same word for voice in Hebrew for vote is koil, K-O-L. In one translation, koil means the voice of thunder. It is time for a people who have a deep analysis, not just a democratic analysis or a Republican analysis, but a deep moral analysis to koil. Let their voices sound like thunder, both in the street and at the ballot box and in the political office. But not only religiously. Let me read something that all you Virginians ought to be familiar with and take my seat. That all power is vested in and consequently derived from the people. That all magistrates, all political officers are the trustees and the servants of the people. And at all times amenable to them. That's what your Constitution, amended as late as 1971, said, and if Virginia didn't mean it, it shouldn't have put it in the Constitution. Is supposed to be a trustee and a servant to all the people. That government is or ought to be instituted for the common benefit, the protection and security of all people, the nation or community of all the various modes or forms of government that is best which is capable of producing the greatest degree of happiness, of safety, and is most effectually secured against the danger of maladministration, and whenever any government shall be found inadequate or contrary to the purpose, these purposes, a majority of the community have an indubitable, inalienable, indefeasible right to reform, alter, or abolish it in such manner as shall be judged most conducive to the public will. If you didn't read it, you should have read it written down. And if government is supposed to be for the people and the public good, then Virginia has to face this fact that 38% of Virginians make less than a living wage, over 1 million people. That 43% of Virginians are poor and low wealth. 3.5 million white women, 3.5 million in total. The most of them are white women and children. Even though oftentimes politicians racialize poverty in order to undermine the ability of whites to see themselves as poor as well. 813,000 Virginians remain uninsured. Congress is talking about cutting SNAP. 740,000 Virginians are on SNAP. And so tonight this hearing is really about us hearing the facts, the faces. Thanks for the politicians who came. Others will see it by live stream, but not just to hear the stories, but to hear solutions from the people that are impacted. James Barber said, we made this world and we can make it again. Tonight, as we go forth now, the goal at the end of each of these testimonies is not so much applause. In fact, I would ask you when each person finishes to simply say, somebody's hurting my brother, or somebody's hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long. We're not here for fellowship, we're here for a fight. We're not here just to applaud, we're here to be appalled. But the kind of appalled, the kind of being appalled that pushes you to action. If after tonight, you have heard nothing that says we ought to have a Poor People's Campaign, a National Call for Moral Revival, then don't join us. But if after tonight, you've been made to cry, you've been made to weep, your ears have been turned into eyes, and you have been made to see pain that should not be, and while you have life in your body and breath in your body, you want to be a part of a movement that is not merely trying to see it, but to see it changed. Then join us, because somebody's hurting our people. It has gone on far too long. God bless you. She tells me I can't say I'm old, but I'm just older than I was 20 years ago. And my bones got to hurt. But you know, I thought about it when that sister shared with me her code. That's what we have to do. That's what this movement is about. It is about saying, if it takes for you to stay in this movement, I will share what is necessary for you to stay on the front lines until we win. Again, all of you here, all of you on live stream, as you heard my dear brother say, we're canvassing now. I do want to re-emphasize though, we are registering people for the movement who will vote. Not just registering people to vote. Because if you vote without an analysis, or you vote without demands in this season, if you don't vote in a way that will push, you know, Democrats to do more and Republicans to do less of the meetings they want to do. So everybody we register to vote, we want them in the movement. We want to build a community. Can I get an amen? Amen. Secondly, we must be real careful about how we define poor people, because our movement has said, poor people are not those 39 million people that they say are below the federal poverty line. There are 140 million poor people. That means there are people who don't look like our image of poverty, but they're poor. They're a paycheck away. They have something, they have a front, but underneath that, and we need to be invited because this society has taught them to act like they're not connected. Right? So, as you move into all the communities. Thirdly, This isn't playing, y'all. We're going to have to fight. And I mean fight non-violently, but we're going to have to fight. We won't win these things by just going to a hearing and asking for them. Not one thing that we hold true today was won like that. Social Security, labor rights, abolition of slavery. It wasn't won like that. It was won at times when people were even willing to put their bodies on the line. And they were willing to scream and to holler and to vote and to demand. Even when they were told to shut up. Dr. King was told in Birmingham, why don't you just be quiet and just wait? And he said, we are the longest waiters in history. All the time you no longer wait. You demand what is right. Non-violent and non-violent movements that demand work. One of our leaders told us one day, said, poor people and impacted people only have two options. Non-violent agitation, massive voter registration, participation, or guns. And we don't choose the guns because even in history, those violent revolutions fail. Because the empire uses the violence against those. You see what I'm saying? So this is going to cost. I'm just being real. We talk about organizing 35,000 people, 25,000 people in the state. It may take 10, 15,000 of them all in the jail at one time to force a change in the narrative. But tonight, all of us have said we won't be silent anymore. Check yourself. If you really want to be in this remnant, make sure that you have to do it. This is not a play. And if you don't do this, people will die. And people may still die, but we're not going to let them die in silence. Somebody said every crucifixion needs a witness. We're not going to allow this to happen to people anymore. So we got to be prepared to fight. We also need Virginia and all these other states because you have to deal with this. We believe in state up, it's not helicopter leadership. It is not come here out of love, we come here to hear, to help us keep moving and sharing it around the country. But we know we need more of these hearings, just like this across the state to help. There are a lot of people that just don't know how bad it is. If they knew, they would get up and be active. Yes. There must be prophetic imagination before there is prophetic transformation. There must be an awakening of the consciousness before there will be concrete actions of change. You are called to awaken the consciousness. And also, we know that because so much happens in our state capitals, if this state has photo ID laws that you all are still fighting, right, in court, y'all still fighting, or did you lose? What? You fought? Have all the lawsuits over your? We fought them? And you won, okay. And you won some of it. You didn't, but we got to still keep fighting. Because ultimately, we can't ever agree with photo ID, because photo ID didn't become an issue until black and brown people started voting. Right? And thus, it's a form of protest. But here's my point. Here's my point. We have to recognize, we have to fight hard in this work. And we have to do it not just until November, but beyond. Right? We have to do it beyond. All the things we mentioned here that happen, every movement has to have a clear target. If you have racist voter suppression laws in this state, it happened in your state capital. If this state denied Medicaid expansion in any way, it happened in your state capital. If your state had bad stand your ground laws, it's state capital. If it had bad environmental laws and deregulation of company, it happened in the state capital. If they had a tax on the immigrant community, it's happened in the state capital. There has been a tax on the LGBT communities, and LGBTQ community, it's happening in the state capital. If education is not funded as it should be, state capital. If your school systems are resegregated, it's because of the empowerment of the state capital and state legislatures and the government. If that's the target, it means that one thing that this state, this Commonwealth has to do. We went to the legislature, some of them weren't there, got arrested. When they are back, you must build a massive Poor People's Campaign national call on moral revival, Virginia style, at your state capital when they are in session. this movement, and Liz and I talk about this sometimes, we must not see ourselves as the grasshoppers and everybody else are the giants. Stop telling yourself that in 2016, Trump won and extremists won. They didn't win. You cannot lose the popular vote by 3 million and win. It was a racialized, antiquated, racist electoral college. It was 97 million people staying home because the politicians aren't touching their moral minds and imaginations and aren't calling the names of the real conditions. It was 250,000 people being suppressed in Wisconsin, for instance, and Trump wins by 28,000 votes. It was in Michigan, 10,000 votes and hundreds of thousands of poorly impacted people. Nobody even reached out to them or talked to them or organized them. It was because of $10 billion of pornographic sums of money that we know about. But if anybody has got to do all of that cheating to win, it does not say something about your weakness, it says something about your strength. If we can believe, as Liz constantly said, every time I've heard her speak, she keeps saying, I think sometimes miss it, Liz, they don't really hear you when she by osmosis somehow projects Dr. King. If they become an unsettling force, not just unsettling, but an unsettling force, and organize and mobilize and commit to a long-term movement, not just an organization, and believe that what we stand for is the right thing, and this is the right time. That force, the force of love, the force of truth, the force of justice, can in fact transform. We're not losing. What you see happening in America is what in South Africa they once said was, a dying horse always kicks the hardest. We're seeing the grasp of life of extremism, the attempt to stop the third Reconstruction in America, that really a future that can't be stopped, it can just be delayed, and we have to be the ones to say no to the delay. That's right. The time is right now. I cannot say as much. And I thank you all for allowing me to talk, because I really didn't feel like talking today. I've been through the last couple of days, and I guess sometimes my strength comes as I've really been hurt over the last couple of days. Some things have happened to my mother and all of the floods and whatnot. But I want to say this to you last. It's a call to action. When we started the Tomorrow Monday campaign in North Carolina, they told us we couldn't win. Supermajority legislature. They spent $6 million of our money against us on voter suppression, governor's office, all that stuff. And we didn't win anything. 17 people went into the legislature when they were in session. It wasn't that they arrested me. It was when the next day they arrested a woman with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair. That was the front page story. And then the next Monday. And for 3 years, every Monday, not 1,000 people every Monday, sometimes 100, sometimes 50, but the consistency of it, the constancy of it, the moral clarity. And then when we started fighting, we didn't have any lawyers. I didn't tell the folk the first time, I don't know how we're going to get out of jail. But by the end of the summer, we had 123 lawyers. They had $6 million and a bunch of lawyers. We had pro bono lawyers, and then a wealthy firm said, we keep seeing y'all on TV fighting. How long are y'all gonna fight? We said, till somebody else. And so that firm said, okay, well, we're willing to put up several $1 million of our lawyers. If y'all are willing to fight, we've been itching for a fight.
You don't know who will help you and what's available until you stay out there long enough and keep making the noise. We started with 17 on a Monday, and in April, and by the next February, 100,000 people showed up at the state capitol in the middle of winter. It's not an anomaly. People coming together is not new. Black and white people came together in the 1800s. Black, white, Jew, Christian, and Gentile came together in the 60s. It's our time to come together now. And this room can build and build and build until I pray that the day, soon and very soon, we hear this. Breaking news from Virginia. The Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival, has just taken over the state legislature.